Today is Tuesday, May 4th, and I'm here with subject number 8. Focus of today's research question is to how do counselors who provide services to Spanish-speaking clients gain their awareness, acculturation, and skills to work with this population? So question number 1, how long have you worked within the organization as a therapist?
Over 10 years.
And what are your credentials? I'm sorry.
I've been working since 2011. How about that?
Okay. And question number 2, what are your credentials?
I have a master's degree in human services, concentration in counseling. I'm a nationwide certified anger management specialist too. And I have a vocational rehabilitation bilingual civil commission approval. So it's vocational rehabilitation counselor bilingual 2. I'm sorry, bilingual 1.
So question number 3, describe the diversity of the population you provide a service to.
So as a mental health bilingual therapist, counselor, and I also do vocational rehabilitation as a bilingual counselor. So I would say that most likely about 80% of each of my caseloads is working with the Latino community.
Okay, great.
Providing counseling, providing vocational rehabilitation services, about 80%, yeah.
Okay. And question number 4, can you describe your comfort level providing services in Spanish?
My comfort level is 100% based on the fact that I'm fully bilingual. And not only that, but I had the opportunity to go to have 2 years of my high school years working in Puerto Rico. So the language, I dominate the language very much. Also, in my years of experience, I've also been certified through the state to be I took a state test of which I was a professional translator. So not only my background as being, Hispanic, but also my experience in being able to study in Puerto Rico and, learn how to read, write, and speak, the Spanish proficiency, but also in my career, I've also done a lot of trainings that involve working with the bilingual community, but also getting the certifications and the credentials to be able to even translate on the level of being Hispanic.
Question number 5, can you describe your skill sets working with Spanish-speaking clients?
Skill sets in regards to my skills of what do I utilize to
Yes.
So many of my skills are I'm also nurtured heart approach. I've been trained in nurtured heart approach, and I've managed to obtain the Spanish curriculum. So I use anything from DBT worksheets in Spanish. I utilize anything in my anything that basically translating my own, because I am certified to be a translator. So can you give me some more examples of like when you mean skill sets?
No, you're right on point. Right on point.
So basically, I tend to really buy anything that is approved through the Board of Social Services when it comes to Spanish handouts. I try to really utilize anything that is available within the normal English certified or workbooks, I guess I want to say. Anything that is available in English, I always tend to see if they're available also in Spanish to kind of use the same dynamic of counseling or vocational or anything that I'm doing. That way, it's nothing different when it comes to the non-English or Spanish.
Okay. So question number 6, how would you describe your understanding of Spanish-speaking clients' cultural background, beliefs, customs, and values?
So throughout my career, in regards to working with the Latino community, I have one of the biggest things that, or one of the things that I really try to do is take many of the multicultural workshops, conferences. And I also was a part of the New Jersey State Multicultural Task Force, the governor's Multicultural Task Force. So in regards to when it comes to multicultural, I think that the most important thing is making sure that I'm not biased, of course, and also taking the trainings and attending the conferences with different speakers, different workshops, different things that are available to work with the multicultural population. I think it's also based a lot on your personal experience, and when you're working with when we're talking about the Hispanic community, we're also talking about the diverse ethnicities within the Hispanic community. So we know that in my experience in working with the Hispanic population, I think that, learning how to know the difference between a Puerto Rican culture and a Dominican culture and a Cuban culture and a San Salvador culture. I think as you continue your experience, you work with them, I think that that's where the experience also comes up, but also making sure that you're attending the conferences and the workshops to really understand, the diversity of those ethnicities.
Excellent. And you kind of touched a little bit on this next question. Question number 7, can you describe your experience when working with Spanish-speaking clients with a different dialect?
So in my years of experience working with NAMI, New Jersey, I had the privilege of working with them in the beginning of my career. NAMI, New Jersey is an organization that's very multicultural when it comes to mental health. And a big part of that was being part of the Multicultural Diversity Committee. When it comes to working with the different populations, it really has been experience versus any technical book or any workshop or anything any book can give you. So I think that the more you work in the field as a bilingual, counselor or therapist or vocational counselor, you really begin to interact with these families and learn, communication is key, of course, and really asking the families, what are your beliefs in regards when it comes to mental health, or what are your beliefs in regards to therapy? So it's been more of an experience in working with the diverse ethnicities and learning about what is it that their culture or their ethnicities or their backgrounds. So it's been more of an experience in working in a different with Puerto Ricans and Cubans and Dominicans. And, a lot of times we think that because they're Hispanics, that it's across the board, but it's really not, because each one has their own way of upbringings from their original countries or their origin of their country. So I've had a lot of experience, but it's been working with the diverse of ethnicities when it comes to being able to really have that open-minded and working with the different ethnicities.
Okay. Question number 8. What does it mean to you to have a commitment to diversity, and how would you see yourself demonstrating it in your field?
I think that when you have a personal background of upbringing, in my case with mental health, and seeing the challenges and the barriers, and when you're brought up within a home that's domestic violence or mental health counseling, mental health diagnosis. So I think that the beginning of me really understanding my own family members is what also contributes to what the work I do in the field. They say that unless you've been through it, you don't really know. Mm-hmm. So the connection in working with the families that I do work with, it's not, yes, there is a breach of confidentiality that has to be, the breach of confidentiality in sharing or disclosing my personal experience is something that, I abide by very much. But in the aspect of being able to tell a Latino family, I can relate to what you're going through. I can understand what it is to be a Latina and having a parent or that has mental health. So I think that, bringing in your personal experience, not disclosing, in particular things, but being able to relate to the families that the Latino community that we work with kind of brings in that connection between the families that I work with. And one of the other aspects is, being able to speak the language. It's not the same thing as translating as interpreting. So a lot of times and even providing myself workshops and multicultural presentations, I feel like a lot of times we tend to not understand that there's a big impact in knowing the language and understanding the language. We have a lot of different dialects that we're dealing with when you're dealing with one ethnicity within the Latino community, and then you're dealing with another ethnicity and another Latino ethnicity. So being able to speak the language and asking questions, I think that is also important when you're working with the Latino community, because I feel like, my experience has given me that experience, but across the board, I think that being able to speak the language, when we're talking about the different dialects, across, we generalize sometimes a lot of things, but asking questions to the families, I think, is probably the most important thing that we can do to provide a good service to our Latino community. So I feel very confident in the dialects, and because I've had the experience to work with the different ethnicities. And definitely, they say that we learn a lot more from our clients than what they're getting from us sometimes. But I feel like asking the questions and working with the population has given me the comfortability to know that, when I do go into work with these families and knowing their ethnicity, I feel pretty confident because of the experience that I've had.
Excellent. Question number 9. Mm-hmm. How does the agency address a situation that involves a counselor's values or beliefs that are different from Spanish-speaking clients?
Well, I feel that in the organization that I'm currently working for, I work full-time and part-time. So I would definitely give you the aspect of both of the agencies. My full-time agency, I feel like there is not. Unfortunately, they still have a long way to go. And I'll give you examples. For example, working in the agency that I'm working full time, one of the disadvantages in working with them is that, when we're reaching out to the Hispanic community, we need Hispanic letters. So I've had to create those Spanish letters from the population that I serve in that aspect, where I think as an organization and knowing how the state of New Jersey and knowing the census of the census results and knowing the population of knowing the amount of the Hispanic community that are in the state of New Jersey, the agency that I work for, I feel like it's a really big agency. And it's an agency that the expectations are that, you do have the information that the clients or, the population that we're serving, we should be having those bilingual documents to provide to her. And we don't. So I feel like that's a disadvantage to the community that I'm serving, because we're not providing them with the documentation and the to be very ethical in regard to the job that I'm doing with the families, well, there's a lack there. So I feel in that aspect, there's a big lack with providing services to the community that we serve. The other thing is that, when we create treatment plans in this, my full-time organization, we don't have that in Spanish. There's no way to translate those plans in Spanish. So I feel like, in a way, that's not only is a disadvantage to the family understanding what they're signing for, but now we also have to take the time to translate every word in that document to ensure that the consumer or the client knows what they're signing for. So I think that's time consuming, which is, something that, of course, we know that when we're in a session or an appointment with a Latino family, then that session is longer. So, of course, because you have to translate it. So I think that in my full-time, I think that there's areas that definitely need to be worked. Whereas if in my part-time, they provide everything that is needed to provide to the family in regards to giving the documentations in Spanish or having me as a bilingual to be able to contact to make an appointment, right? So I think that, when we're looking at my full-time versus my part-time, in the full-time, there are disadvantages and there's lack of resources in Spanish for the Spanish community, whereas if my part-time is pretty up to date.
Okay. Question number 9. Can you describe when it was difficult to express something in Spanish, and how did you feel in those occasions?
I think that in us being a bilingual therapist, counselor, yes, I think that our brain is split in a way that, when we're providing a service and you're constantly speaking the language, and then you have to quickly probably go into, and a perfect example would be when you're working with a teenager and the parent is Spanish. So being able, and the younger client dominates the English while the parent only speaks the Spanish. So I think that in going back and forth when you're providing a service to them in counseling and therapy or whatever the service may be, there are times where you're like, oh my God, I'm trying to figure out that word and I can't. And I think that the way that I feel about that and the way I've handled the situation is I don't want the client or the consumer to feel like I'm not really capable of doing a bilingual session. So I really tend to make a joke out of it. So I'll be like, oh my God, I'll say something like, oh my God, my bilingual, I went into a bilingual moment there. Or I'll say something where I make them feel comfortable that I'm human and that I'm speaking 2 languages. And I don't, at the beginning, it was something where after you analyze and you kind of think about your day and you think about how you can do something better in that session, then the words come up. But I think in the moment, I think that the biggest thing is not to show the consumer or the client that you're incompetent or that you can't, it's just being human and real that we're dominating 2 languages.
Good response. Question number 11. Can you describe your experience with professional counseling terminology in the Spanish language?
Terminology, yes. I think that when I decided to really work in the field of mental health counseling, I wanted to ensure that I prepared myself to make sure that I'm providing the best service to the Latino community. So one of the things that in taking the training and translating, being a professional interpreter certified through the state, I think that built up and provided me with many more opportunities to learn how to really make sure that I'm using those terminology the appropriate way. The other thing is making sure that I'm myself am reading, having that constant reading different books in Spanish to ensure that I'm learning new words. So, but it's not always that when you're in the middle of a session or in therapy. However, I feel that it's been really, sometimes it could be challenging. However, you kind of tend to work through those things.
Okay. Question number 12. In your experience, what are the challenges faced by clinicians of Latino groups in the workplace? What strategies have you used to address the challenges, and how successful were those strategies?
I think some of the challenges were, like I mentioned before, is not being able to provide the population, the Latino population, with the resources in Spanish that they needed. I think that the other challenges is also, making sure that I learn what is within my community for resources for the families that I serve in Spanish. So I think that there's a big gap in regards to networking when it comes to a big thing in regards to having the resources that the Latino community needs. I think that the barriers has been time, being able to have the time to really sit down and research what is exactly out there for the Latino community. So time management, not time management, but I'd say there's a constraint in time to really have when you're working with the family, and sometimes that working with the family is such a limited time that to ensure that I have the resources for them also, it's been a little challenge. I think that there definitely needs to be more networking with the community agencies, with the nonprofit agencies, in order to ensure that after we're getting ready to finish up with our clients, is being able to refer them to community partnerships. And so I think that that's where I lack. What have I done in the past in regards to that? Attend many conferences where I'm able to do the networking, to obtain the resources and build a partnership with different agencies to be able to provide that service to the community that I serve.
And final question number 13. What efforts have you made or been involved with to foster multicultural understanding and cultural competence through working with this population?
So I have had the opportunity to work with an agency called NAMI New Jersey. And in working with NAMI New Jersey, it's a nonprofit agency of which they provide advocacy, education, as well as support for family members with mental health. I have had the privilege to work with them and also bring the change of working with the Latino community. With NAMI New Jersey, I have had the privilege to be one of the founders of the NAMI New Jersey en Español, where that change came about, where we were able to provide the Latino community support groups, NAMI New Jersey Educating the Educators in Spanish. So in the state of New Jersey, several years ago, they did not have NAMI New Jersey in Spanish. So when I started, volunteering and working with them, I had the privilege to assist in creating NAMI New Jersey en Español. And the efforts right now, we started off in 2 counties, where right now we're in each county in the state of New Jersey. The other thing is that we provide support groups for the Latino community. Working within that time frame of being the founder and providing the services to the Latino community, we decided to do a multicultural committee where we were also able to come together and reach out and provide presentations to the school districts, to mental health counselors. So we were able to provide a lot of education. Another part of being part of that agency, which I do also, volunteer for them now on a daily basis, was also providing, we would go out and speak to the schools as educating the educators. So coming in as a parent, Hispanic parent perspective, was another area of that I was able to put effort and explore to provide to the community, to the school districts as well. So when we're talking about in efforts and the challenges that we have currently in the agency that I'm working with right now, full time, we had attempted to create a bilingual Hispanic committee. And sure enough, after about, I want to say 7 months, we were shut down because of I wouldn't say political reasons, but I would say more of not following, I guess, according to higher management was protocol that, we needed to establish, this committee more formally, where that's where the barriers are, where you're challenged, where you want to bring change, and then in a higher up, at an administrative level, you're shut down. However, there is a group of us that we're not going to, take no for an answer. So we're still in the process of meeting with the administrative to really explain and really have given the education of why is it so important to have a Hispanic committee within the agency, because we want to serve our population a better way. Another thing is we have offices within every county. We want to make sure that everything that's provided to the Latino community is all in a unanimous way, meaning that we all want everyone to provide the same service, having the same resources that are the same, not one county providing a different way to the Latino community. We want to be basically unified.
Excellent. So this actually concludes our interview. So thank you for participating, and
my pleasure.
You'll receive a follow-up email with a brief survey for you to complete for the email you provided, and that concludes the interview for today.